Hello, everyone. I'm here with the MPP of Brampton North, Graham McGregor. So, would you like to give an introduction of who you are?
Yeah. Happy to be here. So I'm the member of provincial parliament for Brampton North, which also is a riding where HB Harold Brathwaite, the high school, sits in. I got elected about a year and 3 months ago, and I went to Heart Lake Secondary myself. I'm just a kid from the neighborhood, and now I work at Queens Park, trying to fight for a better neighborhood for my friends and my neighbors.
That's great. Okay, so we'll start off with the first question. How can schools and communities help young people combat self-criticism and develop self-compassion?
You know, it I think one of the biggest things that we got to be looking at, and it is something that really spoke to me when I talked to you, Carrot, and the other folks from Rediscover. Um, this is such a big problem in our schools, and it was a big problem when I was young. So I'm 30 now. So I graduated high school in 2011. So that was a while ago. It wasn't that long ago, and we always had issues with body dysmorphia and eating disorders and drug addiction and that kind of thing. But the stories that I hear now from kids and from parents, it's like skyrocketed. And I think TikTok probably has a lot to do with that. I think Instagram probably has a lot to do with that. When you're looking at a screen and your head's down looking at a screen all day and you're not looking around you. So I think the best thing we can do as or our schools can do is promote values in society that go beyond just what you look like and how many clicks you get on your social media post, right? You've got to remember, and anybody listening, remember that you're you're valuable as a human intrinsically. It doesn't matter what you look like. We all want to look good, like that's there's nothing wrong with wanting to look good, but remember that that's not where you derive value as a human being. You derive value as a human being, in my view, from what you can do and what service you can provide to others. So I think starting there as a starting point is important, but also remembering that a lot of the things that you would do maybe to look better or be more active, there are healthy ways to tackle that, and things that are really good for you. So healthy lifestyles are good for you, not because you look better, although that's a byproduct. I'm not pointing at myself, but not because you look better, but it's good for your brain. It's good for your longevity. Team sports are good. It gets you out social and talking to people. We spend too much time nowadays with our heads down, buried in the cell phone. Living in a digital world when we live in a very vibrant material world that wants you and wants you to take part. So I'd say to our young people, you know, get out, get active, get busy, and do something for mankind, for humankind, and let's set our values in the right place. And I think it all starts from that.
Yeah,
What do you
that's
think?
yeah, I think your insight on this, it's true. Most young people are on their phones all the time. So just getting out, going outside would be quite helpful.
Well, and it's huge for all kinds of things too, right? I mean, it's not just I know our focus is around self-image and self-worth, but a lot of the issues around depression, a lot of this kind of exaggerated kind of ADD and anxiety and things like that. When you put the phone down for a little bit, right? And I'm not saying cell phones are bad things. I mean, I got mine right here. I'm as guilty of this as anybody is. But you put the phone down and engage in some wholesome activity where you're looking at community members, and you're meeting people from the community, and you're talking with each other. I think it's so important. And we lost a little bit of that. Like, I know we all learned how to do Zoom during COVID, and now this is the big thing, and we all had a couple of years where we didn't really do things like make eye contact with people and all that kind of thing. But these are important, and for young people too, to develop their social skills. I haven't had a job. I'm a politician now, but I haven't had a job ever where I didn't need some degree of social skills. whether that was delivering pizza, or whether that was writing policy at a ministry, or whether that was in the automotive sector. Like anything that I've done, I've needed social skills. I've needed to talk to people. So you develop that, and I think our brains are wired where when we do more of that, we're a lot happier. So,
Yeah.
and people that can be mean and nasty on social media too. Um, they tend to be much kinder in real life. And that's true for politicians, and I think that's true for young people as well.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question is, what collaborative efforts are being made by the government and communities to reduce socioeconomic inequality, a factor that impacts the mental health of youth?
Yeah, this is a big one, and this is, I'm going to talk a little bit about the generational gap that we have, and I say we because really, my generation is millennials. Like we kind of cap out around like 40. I don't know, we're what, 27 to 40 kind of age range, and we're the first generation in a long time in Canada that's actually looks like we're going to be worse off than our parents were. And with a country like ours, I mean, my parents came to Canada from Northern Ireland and Scotland. Many kids, in Brampton, where we're a city of immigrants, right? Like everyone came from somewhere, and our parents came here, or we came here to build a better life and to build a better future. And for a whole host of reasons, that's just not the case. We have in Canada, we're so lucky to have the biggest country, right? Like there's no reason we can't be the biggest, baddest economy on the block. And we tend to kind of tie our hands behind our back when it comes to doing things like building houses or building highways. I was getting elected about a year and 3 months ago. One of my biggest promises was building a highway around Brampton. And anybody knows that the traffic in Brampton is crazy. We've had an explosion of population growth. We haven't had the infrastructure to keep up with it. This has been a problem literally for decades. And so, I got elected trying to build a highway. It's very, very popular with most people here in Brampton. But I had a lineup of primarily older people, to be frank, that maybe already owned a home, and they didn't drive to work anymore, and they were opposing our highway because you know heaven forbid you build a road over some farmland, or you build a road over some grass, or all that kind of thing. And it's just kind of, I feel like every generation before us was able to develop. They built job sites, they built homes for people to live in, they built roads for them to drive on, and hospitals and all that kind of thing. And all of a sudden, when it's our generation's turn, they find little issues to say, sorry, we can't do it. And every other city, every other generation has had an opportunity to buy homes. Like in the 1980s, the average home price in Peel region was about $139,000. Now that's closer to $1 million,
Yeah.
right? And wages haven't gone up that quickly. I'm sorry to say, for any of the kids that are going to get into the job market, wages have not grown the same way since the 1980s. And it's the biggest reason for that shortage of housing prices, because we're not building enough homes to meet all the people that live here. When if 8 people are bidding on the same home, it drives the price, it skyrockets the price. So it seemed like every other generation was able to have a home, and they were able to build homes. And then it comes our turn, and they say, oh, no, no, sorry, the character of the neighborhood, sorry. Or they say, oh, no, our roads can't handle it, sorry, no more homes here. They say, no, no, actually, there's a bird in the field here, sorry guys, like you got to build homes somewhere else. Or oh, this farmland, even though Canada exports food and we have a surplus of food, no, 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 you can't, don't build a home on this piece of farmland, because that's wrong. And it's to me, I find it to just be unjust and unfair. And I think that gap between homeowners and renters is one of the biggest socioeconomic challenges that our generation is going to face. If we don't tackle that, if middle class millennials and Generation Z can't, Gen Z, I guess, to be cool. Sorry, I know I'm washed. Uh, if they can't afford a home, how the heck is anybody else going to? If the middle class is struggling and can't make ends meet, God help everybody else. That's not a part of the middle class. So it's this is a major challenge that we've got to tackle. There's a lot of parallels in our generation in Brampton because in the same way we're trying to build stuff for Brampton, everyone's saying, "Oh no, no." They didn't have a problem when Oakville was getting it. They didn't have a problem when Mississauga was getting it. They didn't have a problem when Toronto was getting it. All of a sudden, we got a problem now that Brampton wants in. So, that I know the question was more about socioeconomic things. The other challenges that we've got to face is we've got to get employers to um, implement fair hiring practices. You know, I hear heartbreaking stories, and I've never had to live through this. At Graham McGregor, no, I've never had to shorten my name or anything, but you talk to guys named Mohammed that have to shorten their name to Mo, because they think it's going to get their resume looked at more, or Jamal goes to James, right, or Mankira goes to Manny because so and I think that's changing. Like I think employers are becoming more culturally competent. We're trying to make the government of Ontario more culturally competent. We're trying to make the school boards obviously culturally competent as well. We had some challenges of that in the Peel District School Board as well, but it's moving in the right direction. Whether it's moving fast enough, probably not. But I think creating better opportunities for everybody, but then on a holistic side, making sure that our generation doesn't, my generation and your generation doesn't get the short end of the stick when it comes to development and building. I think those are major challenges, and we're trying to tackle those. It's some of the biggest things that I'm fighting for at Queens Park when I go to work every day.
That's great. That's great to hear. So the next
What do you
question
think?
is, yeah.
I feel too interviewing. Mankira, what do you think? What do you think are some of the biggest socioeconomic factors?
No, I agree. I think that Brampton, like you said that Oakville got like the new stuff. Toronto did. Yeah, Brampton, the traffic here is it's a lot.
Yeah, it's
So
crazy. Well, and look at a place like Oakville. They've got the 403 on the
yeah,
south end. They got the 401 on the north end, right?
yeah,
Like where is that bypass option for us here in Brampton? This highway that we're trying to build, all it is, it's a bypass that goes around the north end of Brampton. To me,
yeah,
it's only fair and right. We're 700,000 people. We're a massive. We're twice, two or three times the size of Oakville or Burlington or some of these other communities. And it's funny. Like a lot of the people opposing our highway actually come from these communities, right? During my election, I'll tell you this story. So during my election, we I went down. My cousin lives in downtown Toronto, so he had a party around St. Patrick's Day time. So I go down there in the spring and I see all these stop the 413 signs. I'm like, oh, Christ. I've never seen one in Brampton, but sure, you'll see them in downtown Toronto where like these people never come to Brampton, they never visit, and they wouldn't be caught dead in our city anyway. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, and then during my election, like we put out probably 300 build the 413 signs in the community. So it was just one of those like I don't know. It was one of those moments where you see the disconnect. I know that's not what we're talking about. I'll get back to mental health, but I just got
yeah.
to vent some of my frustrations, man.
No, no, that's completely all right. Okay, so the next question
Yeah.
was, what are some of the community-led initiatives to foster self-satisfaction and a positive self-image among youth people, especially in the context of like pressures of social media and peer comparisons?
So I guess I got to put a shameless plug for my friends over at Rediscover because I think you guys are doing an awesome job. I mean, when you guys came into my office, I was so impressed by the thought that you'd put into this, the professors that you've been working with, and the psychotherapists that you've been getting feedback from. This is really how we make change, right? It's not there are some people in this world that are leaders because of titles that they have and they could be an MPP or they could be whatever, and then there are other people that are leaders because of their service to others, their service to humanity, and you guys are really stepping up. I I got to give you the flowers that you deserve. You guys are pushing. You're doing great work already in the schools. The plan that you guys have put together to promote positive self image is absolutely fantastic, and it's we've lots of other organizations, Boys and Girls Club. We've got some youth wellness hubs in Brampton that are doing excellent work as well. But I'm a big believer in community leading community. So I got to give it up to you guys. I think you guys are killing it, and I'm so excited to keep supporting it.
Thank you so much. So there's a lot more to come for Rediscover. So everyone should
Yep.
stay tuned.
That's it.
Also, so the next question is, are there community-driven efforts that encourage altruism and a sense of belonging amongst youth people, contributing to their mental health and well-being?
You know, I think so. I'm curious how you think about it. I mean, one of the things that I get people to volunteer on, I put together a Brampton North Youth Council, and actually, I mean, shameless plug. Anybody watching the podcast, reach out. I'm at Brampton Graham on Instagram and Twitter. Look me up there, and we'd love to. We're always looking for more people to join the youth council. But and we do things like we get out in the community. We hear the concerns right from the community members. We help with different events that the community is having. There are a few kind of park melas that the seniors clubs have, so we help out there and that kind of thing.
Unfortunately, at this time, the audio and video was corrupted. We apologize for the mishap, and unfortunately, a lot of MPP McGregor's wise words were cut out. Lastly, we'd like to thank MPP McGregor for coming on the podcast and giving us very valuable information on the community and how youth can deal with self-esteem issues. Thank you for tuning in to the Rediscover podcast, and we hope to see you next month.